In this video, I'm going to be talking about all the announcements for Borderlands at PAX because recently, literally like an hour ago, they did a PAX conference, and at this PAX conference, they actually did a live stream, and at this live stream, or this live event, they actually talked about a lot of Borderlands news. So if you're a Borderlands fan like me, myself, there is actually quite a few things to get excited for besides a brand new game, which of course we're going to talk about it in this video. Now, if you're unaware, I'm definitely one of the biggest Borderlands fans out there, specifically Borderlands 2 more than anything. I never played the pre-sequel, I'm just going to say that, but a lot of people said it's just more of the same. There are some new mechanics in that game, like for instance, I think you start floating since you're on the moon, so gravity's different there, and on top of that, you have to worry about these oxygen tanks. I guess there are some cool classes in that game. For instance, Claptrap was a playable character there. Honestly, when it comes to Borderlands 1, I did not care about Borderlands 1 altogether. Maybe it was when I was much more younger, so maybe I didn't understand the mechanics, but I didn't like a lot of little different things in that game that actually pissed me off. But I'm glad I gave Borderlands franchise another try, and I actually ended up loving the Borderlands franchise right when I played Borderlands 2. Fun fact, Borderlands 2 actually might be my most played game of all time. Yes, I know that's really crazy, but there is a lot to do in Borderlands. Basically, what Gearbox should do when they make Borderlands game, they should just put fun written all over the boxes when it comes to Borderlands, because I've had so much fun with Borderlands, almost more than any other franchise of all time. You can spend literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours when it comes to Borderlands 2 or any of the Borderlands really. And the cool thing about Borderlands arguably is it's one of the best co-op experiences. When I mean co-op, I mean up to 3 other people can play with you, totaling a number of 4 other players in the same world. So arguably, if you're looking for that co-op game, it's definitely one of those co-op games you should run out and definitely buy. If you like co-op games, whether you're playing locally or whether you're playing over the internet, definitely give this game a chance. Basically what I'm saying is, if you have not played the Borderlands series, you should definitely play the Borderlands series as soon as possible. It's definitely an amazing franchise. Arguably, I'm not still a fan of Borderlands 1, but I definitely love Borderlands 2. I actually find it quite funny that those games are always dirt cheap for an amazing game that are always like, I think it was given like a 9 or a 9.5. There was technically nothing wrong, at least with Borderlands 2. So many people like that game, and that game is such an awesome game. I think on last generation hardware, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, you can get that game for around like $4 to $5. It's that dirt cheap, and those games still technically and overall still hold up really well. And then moving on to current gen platforms, of course, you got the Borderlands Handsome Jack collection, where you can get Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel, plus I think DLC all in one package, and those games are dirt cheap. They usually run around close to $20. Sometimes you can get them for like $15, $13, $12, but usually just around that $20 price point. And for that kind of price, that's an amazing price. That's pretty much an indie price. I know I'm kind of talking about my experience with Borderlands, and I'm talking about the series as a whole. That's pretty much what this video is about as well, not just talking about the announcements, because this is one time as a Borderlands fan I can finally sit down in front of the camera and go on and talk about how much I love Borderlands. Now, really quickly, if you don't know what Borderlands is a first-person action RPG type deal where you're pretty much playing with guns. If you ever played Fallout series, and it's pretty much like Fallout. Of course, some of the mechanics and the majority of the game, of course, will play very different than Fallout, but that's the best thing I can relate. Borderlands 2 is another type of Fallout. You have a lot of guns, you have a lot of loot. It's just overall a very satisfying game. If you love RPGs, if you love first-person shooters, if you love co-op, if you love loot, if you love everything I just said, like I said, go out and buy the game. But now let's actually talk about the live stream itself and talk about what Gearbox actually announced when it comes to new Borderlands stuff, a new game, and all this stuff. Now, when they did this live stream, they talked about some other stuff that were related to Gearbox. I think Gearbox is working with some other companies and some other game developers on different games, but forget that. I'm not even interested in any of those. Actually, fun fact, some of those games that they showed off in their presentation, they were actually games that were on the Sony State of Play thing and some other places, and I think a Nindie Direct from Nintendo. So we've kind of already seen some of that, and they talked about about some upcoming stuff, some DLC for another game, yada yada yada. But let's be honest, nobody was gonna go there for all that news. They really wanted to see what the next Borderlands game is. But before we talk about that, let's finally talk about what they did talk about when it comes to the Borderlands games that are currently on the market, because there is some stuff that they did announce about the current Borderlands Handsome Jack collection and Borderlands 1. I don't think Borderlands 1 is currently on current gen. If I'm wrong about that, I really do apologize in this video. But from what I've seen from this, I think Borderlands 1 is finally coming to current gen hardware. And on top of that, I think they're going to be adding some new quality of life improvements. That's what the dev at Gearbox said about that game. I'm not sure if you can play the current gen Borderlands game like Borderlands 1 if it's on current gen hardware, or if it is coming to current gen hardware. I'm not quite sure if you can play that in better resolutions above 1080p, but when it comes to the Borderlands Handsome Jack collection, the cool thing about that is they did announce support for resolutions above 1080p, so you can get 2K resolutions and 4K resolutions. Graphically, that game's not that impressive, so I'm assuming that game would probably run pretty well in 4K resolution, since that game's much more cartoony. It's a shell-shaded type of world when it comes to the Borderlands series, so I'm pretty sure that will run well, whether you're playing it on the PS4 Pro or you're playing it on the Xbox One X, excuse me, with the 4K enhancements and the upscaled resolutions and frame rates of Borderlands. Now, they did give a release date to that free patch, because it is going to be a free patch if you own the Borderlands Handsome Jack collection, and that update is actually coming on April 3rd, so that's absolutely great news that fans are going to be able to play in better resolutions if you haven't played the game there. And then they did also announce that they are going to be giving aim support to Borderlands 2 VR. I actually forgot that game was actually a game, Borderlands 2 VR, because apparently I just missed it. But yes, they are still supporting Borderlands 2 VR, so you're going to get new aim assist controls where you can use like the PSVR, I think, a gun type controller, which is very cool, with all motion support, so it'll make you feel like you're actually shooting a gun. And then on top of that, the biggest news for Borderlands 2 VR is the fact that you are going to be getting all the DLCs coming out, I think, sometime this summer. And get this, on top of them releasing all the DLC for Borderlands 2 VR, which wasn't included in the initial package back in December. They did not throw out the DLC. The DLC is going to be free, and that's absolutely crazy. There is so much content with all the Borderlands 2 DLC. For the first time, I would actually say Borderlands is one of those few games that actually has an amazing amount of DLC content that, in my opinion, if you don't own it, you should definitely pick up the content. If you're still holding on to things like the last generation versions of those games, or if you're holding on to like the PC version, especially of Borderlands 2, there is a lot of DLC, and most of the DLC is quality DLC from Gearbox. Gearbox really knows how to deliver the DLC. Like, if you could only afford one DLC from Gearbox, it definitely would have to be Tiny Tina's DLC from Borderlands 2. That thing was flat out fantastic. It really did feel like an RPG. It really did feel like a D&D type clone. It really just felt special, and it really did feel like a unique DLC compared to so many DLCs out there. So many companies don't understand good DLC and good value in DLC, but Gearbox really gets it right. Now, some of their DLCs, of course, are hit or miss, but in general, most of their DLCs are top quality DLCs, and I've had so much fun with the DLCs. But now let's move away from the Borderlands 2 announcement with the upscaling and the 4K support, 2K support, better frame rate, remastering of Borderlands 1. Let's talk about really quickly before we get on to the big announcement is they did announce a card game. It is going to be a card game with one of the main characters of Borderlands, your like companion or whatever, Claptrap. They are making a Claptrap game, which in the live stream they pretty much talked a lot about this game that they were developing, which was a card game. It's pretty much where you have to build Claptrap, and then there's like 4 different players trying to see how fast they can build a Claptrap, and then there's different power-ups and different things to screw over your opponents and try to wreck your opponent's Claptrap. But whoever can build a Claptrap fast pretty much wins, and it is a not really a board game. It's more of like a card game with a Claptrap, and that's pretty much how it is. It looks okay, and apparently they just released that game, and apparently it's still exclusive to PAX, and they were showing it off and saying you can go to our booth later on if you want to buy this Borderlands 2 card game with claptrap, building your own claptrap. Overall, it is what it is. I just thought I would talk about that as well because they did talk about that. But now let's get to the biggest news of the day. This is honestly one of the biggest moments for me personally as a gamer. If you don't care about Borderlands, you're not going to be too excited for this. I think even if you are a Borderlands fan, there's still not too much to get excited for here, and I'm going to explain why I still don't think there's too much to get excited for. So after so many years, so many speculations, so many rumors, so many images leaked, yada yada yada, we finally are getting Borderlands 3. Yes, boys! I am so excited for Borderlands 3. You know I'm going to put so many hours into Borderlands 3. It'll probably take the cake easily over Borderlands 2 in terms of like one of my favorite games of all time. I'm very hyped up for this game. He did say on stage, the developer who was developing at Gearbox for Borderlands 3, I think he said they've been developing this for quite some time, maybe 5 or 6 years. So it's been so long since they've been working on this game. Now, what did we actually get when it comes to Borderlands 3 and the Borderlands 3 announcement? Well, prior to actually today, yesterday, they did show a trailer teaser for something, and a lot of people weren't sure if it was going to be Borderlands 3. It's actually funny. I am glad I did not make a video talking about that, because I was actually going to make a video talking about that earlier today, but I'm so glad I hold it off because people are talking about how this could be a Battle Royale game. It's actually funny, on stage when they were first announcing Borderlands 3, it was like, you guys are thinking this game's going to be another Battle Royale because the name of the game, Borderlands Mayhem. The trailer did say Borderlands Mayhem, and some people are confused about the name. Maybe is it a mobile game? Maybe is it a Battle Royale? Maybe is it a card game, kind of like Hearthstone? But no, all those rumors were confirmed dead in the water, and it is Borderlands 3. Like I said again, just so glad I did not make a video on that. I would have to retake it down and then upload this. But yes, Borderlands 3 is in the making. And what are we talking about when it comes to Borderlands 3? Well, you know how I said a while back, even if you were a Borderlands fan, there's not too much to get excited for here. And that is actually the case now with this new announcement and new actual trailer for Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is shaping up to be an amazing game, at least from what I've seen. It looks like it's more Borderlands. If you love Borderlands, then you're definitely going to love Borderlands this time. It looks like it's going to be more of the same. There's going to be a lot of staples. There's going to be a lot of different new things thrown into the mix. I'm actually quite curious to see how much stuff is going to be changed with the core mechanics of Borderlands. Back to what I was saying was the reason I don't really think that a lot of Borderlands fans have anything too excited to get excited for when it comes to the new Borderlands 3 is, first of all, we don't have any concrete release date for this game, so who knows how long this game is going to take to come out. Is it going to be this year? And I think if it's going to be this year, it's not going to be anytime soon. I think Borderlands 2, as far as I still remember having a very good memory of this, I think Borderlands 2 came out in September of 2012, so you can see if they were going to release it, it would not be soon. I think if they were going to release it, it may be quarter 3, quarter 4 of 2019 at the earliest. But honestly, if you ask me, looking at this trailer, I think we're still easily a year away from Borderlands 3. Do I want it to be a year away? No, of course I don't want it to be a year away, but for what I'm seeing, it looks like it's definitely most likely going to be a year away. The problem with it is, when we looked at this trailer for the upcoming Borderlands 3, we pretty much just seen cinematics only. We didn't really see any real gameplay here, so it's really hard to get excited for a game when we don't really know too much about the game. We pretty much just seen locations, we've seen people driving vehicles, we've seen some returning characters, we've seen some returning classes, some new classes, like for instance Tiny Tina is now like a teenager or an adult. That's got to be very hype because he's easily one of the best NPCs in any video game ever made. She's flat out a funny character, an amazing character. A lot of people in the gaming industry love Tiny Tina, and I have to agree too. Tiny Tina is the best NPC maybe, period. That could be argued, of course, in other video games, but she is an amazing character either way. But like I said, we just don't got really anything to really go off of when it comes to Borderlands 3. But hey, I guess we know that Borderlands 3 is coming though. I guess it is better than nothing because so many fans out there have been waiting patiently, waiting years and years and years for that next gritty announcement for Borderlands 3. When is Borderlands 3 going to be announced? Is it actually going to be a thing? Are they developing it? Yada yada yada. But yes, indeed, we do have an announcement of Borderlands 3. Now this is news that's not really anything exciting. We really need more actual real gameplay of it. Maybe we need some kind of like quick 10-minute commentary from them or something to get super excited for the game. But maybe they're still not even close to finishing this game, like I said. Maybe that's the reason we didn't see really any gameplay of the actual game. We didn't see any menus. We didn't really see any actual gameplay. It was all cinematic. It was pretty much all like those type of CGI type render type whatever you call it when it comes to those teaser trailers or whatever like that. It did actually have me kind of disappointed because we saw that first teaser trailer I think yesterday for a new Borderlands game. Like I said, Borderlands Mayhem, we saw that. That pretty much had nothing in it that was Borderlands. They pretty much just showed some statues and some things like that, and that trailer was okay. But now at least we do see the worlds and environment of Borderlands 3. One thing I'm actually super curious to see, because if you look at that teaser trailer or that reveal of Borderlands 3, they did say explore worlds. They put an S over the worlds, and what does that mean? It actually makes me want to believe that this game will have different worlds you'll visit, or this game may be open world for the first time, because if you ever played Borderlands 2, I think Borderlands the pre-sequel was just like Borderlands 2 in a way. I know Borderlands 1 was definitely the same way as Borderlands 2, but anyway, if you ever played Borderlands, it's not really a full it's not really an open world, is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that Borderlands is not really an open world game. If you play the game long enough, then you know, like, there are sections broken up for Borderlands, so it's not like Breath of the Wild, it's not like The Witcher, it's not like Grand Theft Auto, it's not like Fallout, it's not like any of those games. So it would be cool if Borderlands was more open world and it wasn't really split up into sections with loading screens and having their own different, like, yeah, sections pretty much like that. That would absolutely be cool, and that would actually make Borderlands a much more immersive experience and a much more bigger world, and it would be very cool to have something like that. But either way, it's still nice, I guess, that we did get a Borderlands 3 announcement, and that's got to be one of my hypest games in the near future. That's definitely almost, I want to say, my number one. That's my number one game I'm most excited for when it comes to new releases, whether it's 2019, whether it's 2020, 2021. I'm definitely very excited for Borderlands 3. For instance, I just love games that are like, maybe not necessarily RPGs, but I love shooters. I love games with a lot of loot. That's why I also play games like, okay, Fallout maybe, or maybe games like Diablo, things like that with a lot of loot. A lot of loot. That's one of the primary goals of the game, or that's one of the main things you do in the game. You collect a lot of loot. I guess that's why I really love Borderlands as much as I do. And I always thought the combat in that game was super satisfying. Overall, a lot of content. Before I head out of this video, I just really wanted to say that again. I'm going to make a big emphasis on this, or whatever you want to say. I just wanted to say that if you still haven't played Borderlands specifically, you need to go out and grab your copies. That game is one of the dirt cheapest games. That game is an amazing game. I would definitely still go with Borderlands 2 or the pre-sequel, and I would still take Borderlands 2 over Borderlands 1. Just forget Borderlands 1 and skip directly to Borderlands 2. You'll probably thank me in the long run, and I'm not going to explain why I don't like Borderlands 1 in this video, but either way, go ahead and buy it. It's dirt cheap, whether you're on current gen, last gen, PC. They also make a Vita version. Oh yeah, speaking of, really quickly, of the Borderlands announcements, how they were announcing, I think Borderlands 1 remastered and upscaled Borderlands 2, I think in 2K, 4K resolutions, the Handsome Jack collection, and all of that jazz. I was actually quite disappointed I didn't hear any announcements of a Borderlands Handsome Jack collection, or a Borderlands 2, a Borderlands 1, Borderlands pre-sequel on the Nintendo Switch, because there was that rumor, I think last week or whatever, where somebody did tweet out a little picture, I think officially from Gearbox, and we weren't sure what to expect, and unfortunately we're not getting any Nintendo Switch version of any of the Borderlands. And I know Borderlands, I don't know how well it would run on the Switch. It would definitely run better than the PS Vita version of Borderlands, I think, yeah, Borderlands 2. I wanted to say Handsome Jack Collection, but no. Borderlands 2 is on the Vita, but I'm pretty sure it played better on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if Gearbox just gave up on that dream after Borderlands 2 probably didn't so well on the PS Vita, but if they're going off of that, that's really not a fair consumption, because you do have to realize that game was gimped from the first place, so of course it's not going to sell a lot of copies. There are people like me and some weird people out there that will end up enjoying that game no matter how gimped that game is, just because we love Borderlands and we thought of Borderlands on the go was cool, even if it was a gimped version. It wasn't like it was an unplayable game, but there was enough, I think, problems with the game that a lot of people just disregarded the game and said, what's the point of playing this on the go? I'd rather just play at home, even though I can't take the game on the go. I'll get better frame rates, better resolution. I think they limited the amount of enemies that were on screen too, so the world felt better off overall on different platforms of the game besides the PS Vita version of the game. So hopefully that's not the reason why they're not bringing this game to Switch, because they saw the PS Vita version probably didn't sell that well. I don't remember, but I do remember that the PS Vita version did come with the PS Vita Slim when it first came out to America, so I don't know how many people ended up buying it anyway. If a lot of people were buying the PS Vita Slim overall, it would have been cool. Anyway, what I'm basically saying is it would have been super cool if Gearbox did bring the Borderlands experience over to the Nintendo Switch in some form or another, even if it's Borderlands 1, which I would not play personally for me, but it still would have been exciting news. Oh yeah, speaking of one announcement that is kind of cool about this event, then I'm probably going to head out of this video. I did want to talk about, since I did forget to mention this, and I didn't really want to talk about other stuff they did announce at this event because it wasn't too exciting, and the main primary focus of people was getting excited for the next Borderlands game was the fact that they did announce a pretty cool game coming to the Nintendo Switch. I think they said it's coming at the around the summertime, so it is coming sometime in the summertime. They did announce, I think, Bulletstorm is coming to the Nintendo Switch, and apparently from the devs, that game is going to run super nice on the Nintendo Switch. They said the frame rates were higher than they expected. I'm assuming it might be locked 30, or it might be higher than 30. I'm assuming it's going to be higher than 30 when it comes to the Nintendo Switch version. They also announced it's going to have some type of not really spin-off, but some type of Duke Nukem integration when it comes to Bulletstorm. So what are we talking here? Are we talking about a playable Duke Nukem? I think we're talking about some type of playable Duke Nukem character. Overall, that game is a pretty awesome game as well. Overall, check that game out. I think that game was already ported to, or they already had a remastering on PS4 and Xbox One, so you can play that on current gen hardware right now. But I guess it's nice. We're going to have a version for the Nintendo Switch fans if you want to take your games on the go and you want another shooting experience. That game is a pretty good game. But yeah, that's pretty much all the announcements at PAX, I think, East, for all the Borderlands announcements, and overall my hype level for that game has gone from down here to up here. I'm still not at the highest level I could be, but once I finally have real gameplay and maybe like a commentary talking about new things in the game and things like that, then I'll have more to get excited for. But right now, I guess I'm still excited because I guess we finally do have an official announcement that Borderlands 3 is coming sometime in the near future. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.